Today's date is November 24, 2024. We are having an Israeli-Palestinian Confederation simulation. Our guest today is Rami Aman, a Palestinian journalist. We are proposing a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine, a government that will exist independently and separately from the Israeli and the Palestinian government, a government that will be mutual to the people of Palestine and Israel. What the area would include is Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. Over 14 million people, about roughly half of them are Palestinians and half of them are Israeli Jews. We are proposing a federal government that would be elected and created whether or not the Israeli or the Palestinian governments agree to it or not, independently of the Israeli and the Palestinian government. That the election will take place online and will allow 14 million people, excluding children, to vote. You could see the constitution for this federal government at ipconfederation.org. You can go to Constitution and read the structure of this federal government with three branches: a legislative branch, a judicial branch, and an executive branch. The legislative branch will have 300 parliament members. The executive branch will have a president and vice president, one Palestinian and one Israeli, rotating in after 2 years after they are elected, but they both have constitutional duties. And the judicial branch with a Supreme Court and a body of courts, structure of courts that would be both Palestinians and Israeli together. I see a note that says, please move this window away from the shared application. I don't know what it means. If someone can explain to me what it means, I don't know.
There's a black screen.
Yeah, there's a
covering
black screen,
everything.
so we can't see what you're sharing.
Oh, well, it says stop share, so.
Yeah, hit stop share and try to do it again. Sometimes it's
Okay.
work.
So can I do sharing now?
Yeah, try to share the screen now and open up the window again, because it looked like something was interfering in the view.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes, now we can see it.
Yeah, it's okay.
All right. So if you want to reach me, do so at josephavasar@gmail.com. By the way, the Constitution is available in Arabic, Hebrew, and English, all of that in the website. All you have to do is scroll down when you go to the website, scroll down a little bit, and then you'll see the word Hebrew in Hebrew, English in English, and Arabic in Arabic, and you can click on that and you'll see the Constitution and all the relevant information in the language that you choose. Our guest today is Rami Aman. Rami Aman is a Palestinian journalist and a peace activist from the Gaza Strip. He founded the Gaza Youth Committee and since 2015 has been organizing small-scale video chats between Israelis and Palestinian peace activists in Gaza through an initiative called Skype with Your Enemy. On April 9, 2020, Aman was arrested by Hamas and charged with weakening revolutionary spirit. Born in Gaza, Aman is a journalist who actively supports peace and Israeli-Palestinian coexistence, as well as peace within Palestinian communities. In 2010, he established the Gaza Youth Committee to connect people in Gaza with the outside world via the internet. Through this committee, he has facilitated video chats between Israelis and Palestinian peace activists since 2015. In 2017, Rami Aman participated in a Leaders for Democracy Fellowship, allowing him to visit the United States for 3 months. In 2019, he organized cycling events with Israeli cyclists, with participants separated by the border fence, and was arrested for his involvement in organizing these events. In October 2023, Rami Aman criticized Israeli attacks on Gaza during the 2023 Israeli-Hamas war, highlighting that the conditions hindered anti-Hamas protests and suggested that the attacks would likely further radicalize Gazans. Rami moved to Cairo in December 2021, is working with Humanite organization, www.humanite.org, at Gaza as a Gaza representative. Our next guest on December 8th is Yanis Varoufakis. He was the former Minister of Finance of Greece. Next, we will have David Beto on December 22nd as a history professor at University of Alabama. On December 22nd, we will have an ad in the Sunday New York Times which states that you are invited to participate in live simulation that demonstrates how a confederation government can bring peace between the Israeli and the Palestinian people. And we've been getting very generous support for this ad. Many of the participants in today's simulations have been generous enough to support, and I really appreciate that. And for those of you who still want to support, we need support. We intend to have the ad running every 2 months in the New York Times in order to create awareness that there is a way to make peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis by way of a federal government. And we hope that the ad will encourage publications such as the New York Times or other major publications to look into what we are doing and to write about it. Because I think that the most important thing is creating awareness that there is another way to resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. On January 5th, we will have Omar Shaban. He is a Palestinian analyst on political economy of the Middle East and a candidate in the first Palestinian parliamentary elections of 1996. On January 19, we will have Walid Shumali. He is the co-founder and director of the Palestinian Center for Research and Cultural Dialogue, PCRD. A lot of you, mostly Palestinians, know him because he used to have a regular segment on Palestinian television. What we are trying to show is how a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine will be able to function and will be able to pass legislation that we call threading the needle. That means that both the Palestinians and the Israeli governments will have to accept, because the legislation that we are demonstrating. We are not saying this is how the federal government should decide. We are not really proposing any substantive policies, but we are just demonstrating how a federal government could function in a way that would be acceptable and would be require the Israeli and the Palestinian governments to accept, because it benefits the people of Israel and Palestine. So we are showing how the federal government could thread the needle. We are asking you to respect what we are trying to show. This is not a lecture, this is a simulation, and we are asking you to ask questions. And when you ask the questions, please put them on the chat. You are also welcome to put your comments, and Nasir will translate the comments into a question. And for example, if you say, well, the Israeli government will never agree to this, or the Palestinian government will never agree to that, Nasir will write that as a question. Will the Israeli government agree to it? Will the Palestinian government agree to it? But ask questions, and when you make comments, Nasir will translate those questions, those comments into question, and will convey the comments by way of a question and the questions to us. This is a short video that explains what the IPC is about and how it proposes to make peace. It's about 2 minutes long.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations, and instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian.
Let me increase the volume.
I think the volume was good.
Oh, it was good? Oh,
Yeah.
I thought that people were complaining about the
No,
volume.
no, it was good.
Okay, I'll go back. Sorry.
Sorry, there was a background. Somebody was talking behind you, Joseph.
Behind me?
A lady's voice was talking at the same time from my side.
Okay. All right. If it wasn't behind me, there is nobody here with me at this time. Okay, let me go back, share the screen. Okay, sharing the screen. That's probably my mistake. I apologize. Let me go back. All right.
The conflict between Israelis and Palestinians has endured for generations, and instead of time healing the wounds, it's only caused the anger to fester and the violence to grow. But what if there was a way to alleviate the tension? Something that may not outright solve every problem, but at least create a forum that encourages a peaceful compromise. Welcome to the Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, a common third government between the Israeli and Palestinian citizens, specifically designed to foster peace, tolerance, and economic prosperity between the two nations. Here's how it works. First off, both Israel and Palestine will keep their respective governments. Israel's Knesset and the Palestinian National Authority will remain unchanged. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation, IPC, will be a third entity acting as a unifying agent between the two. The IPC will comprise 300 parliament members elected from 300 districts in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. Above them will preside a president and vice president, one Israeli and one Palestinian. In order for the IPC to pass a law, it will require a 55% majority from its Israeli representatives, as well as a 55% majority from its Palestinian representatives, thereby preventing either side from monopolizing the legislature. Of course, the IPC won't undermine the political power of either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. At any time, Israel or Palestine may veto a law passed by the IPC. If neither side vetoes, the law is passed. and the two nations are another step closer to resolution. Please help us make this a reality. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation. We might speak different languages, but we all mean the same thing.
So before we commence with the simulation, I'd like to take a survey of the audience and ask you at this time, and we will compare the survey. Do you support a federal government for Israel and Palestine? And we will compare that to a survey that we will conduct at the end of the simulation. I know some of you on the phone and some of you, your computer does not allow you to vote. I apologize for that. I'll give you 5 more seconds to vote. And can you please publish the vote? 31 out of 34 said yes, 91%, and 3 out of 34 said no, that's 9%. Hopefully we will be able to persuade those 3. Hope you remain until the end of the simulation and tell us if you changed your mind.
Hey, Joseph, are you using a browser to show this? Because the black box is showing again. It's like a black box covering your screen. I don't know if it's an issue. Can you refresh or
how do I refresh?
okay. Yeah, just go ahead and just reshare it again because it seems like it's an issue again.
Is this better?
Okay, can you click, you see where it says, do you support a common confederation? Go above there. There's like, or right before pre-simulation survey, go above there, put your mouse there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it disappears when you put your mouse over it. So it's weird. I've never seen this before.
Yeah.
But no,
Okay. All right. Thank you for letting me know. So we define confederation and federation in the same way. Basically, it's the Constitution, the ipconfederation.org. So if you ask us, is this a federation or confederation? Our response is, it's what's in the Constitution. You can call it whatever you want, but it's the same thing. It's based on the Constitution that is available at ipconfederation.org. This is the heart of the simulation, and that's when I'll ask Rami questions. The heart of the simulation is that we are assuming that we were able to have a funding for 1-year campaign to promote the election and to allow people to run for parliament and to run for president and vice president. When I say people, I mean people in Israel and Palestine, to allow Palestinians and Israelis to run for the parliament together and to run for president and vice president. So you will have to assume that we were able to obtain major funding to let the people of Israel and Palestine know the benefit of a federal government and to have time to discuss this and to debate and to have the election. The funding will also be used to create a platform for an election and a system for the people of Israel and Palestine to vote. You will also have to assume that we actually conducted the vote and we allowed 14 million people to vote online with the exclusion of children. You will have to assume that 5 million people have actually voted and 3 million of them were Palestinians and 2 million Israelis. You will also have to assume, for the purpose of this simulation, that 1.5 million people voted for the president, for purposes of the simulation, makes it easier for me to pretend that I am the president that was elected by 1.5 million votes, so that it's clear I am never intend to run. I am not even qualified to run under the Constitution, because although I am a citizen of Israel, I'm not a resident of Israel. I live outside Israel, and therefore I am not eligible to run. But it makes it easier for me to conduct the simulation, pretending that I was elected as president. You'll also have to assume that 300 parliament members were elected in 300 districts. That includes the area of Gaza, the West Bank, and Israel. Each district has 47,000 people, and I will ask you, the audience, to act as parliament member. I already called Jeff and Amnon to act as Palestinian president and Israeli prime minister. Before I go to Rami to have his comments, do you have any questions regarding, or you can put your comments in the chat regarding these assumptions? Do you have any questions? Nasir, do we have any questions?
No questions now.
Okay, so let's go to Rami. Rami, could you give us your comments or question? But let me ask you, Rami, do you believe that Palestinians, since you are from Gaza, do you believe that Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank will be voting for a common federal government in Israel, Palestine? Rami. Nasir, is Rami with us?
Yeah, Rami's here. He's gonna unmute right now. Rami,
Okay.
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I didn't listen to the question.
The question to you is, do you believe you are a Palestinian from Gaza? You no longer live in Gaza, but based on your experience as a journalist and person that lived in Gaza, do you believe that Palestinians in Gaza and in the West Bank and in Israel will vote for a federal government for the people of Palestine and Israel together?
First of all, thank you so much for this invitation and for your work and effort, Joseph and Nasser. I know and that you are doing these assumptions since years, and I was one from the participants while I was in Gaza 3 or 4 years ago. And I think, yes, if the Israelis and Palestinians took this opportunity, not for a specific, solution for one state or confederation, at least they have opportunity to take a decision by themselves, not by their leaders. I think, yeah, they will vote for this idea, but as I told you, not because of it's the best idea, because it's a good offer to invite Palestinians and Israelis. And yes, let them work together. For me, I'm working to invite people from here and there to speak with each other because I believe in that.
So
But there is no opportunity, or maybe they need more opportunities like you, like other platforms, to invite them together, not just to blame each other, not just to say who is the winner and who is the loser, who is the right and who is the wrong. I think we need an idea, make some unity for the people.
So do you think that the assumption here that 3 million Palestinians will vote if we give the Palestinians and the Israelis a equal opportunity to vote? Do you think that 3 million, the assumption that 3 million Palestinians will vote, is that a realistic assumption or not?
Not because they are like support the solution also, but the Palestinians are hungry for the elections. Hungry. We don't have any kind of election in our universities, in our syndicates, in our presidency, in our Palestinian Legislative Council, in our local schools. It was very hard and forbidden to create a parliament inside any school, because I was one from the activists who was trying to teach the kids and the students in Gaza how to understand each other, how to respect each other, how you can make advocacy campaign for your issues, how we can create laws for our country. In my experience, I saw the kids, the teenagers, the adults, the women, the men hungry for the elections, but the same problem that we don't have any elections, just the first one in
But Robbie,
1996.
are you saying they will vote just because there is an election? Or are you saying that after?
They hungry for do something by themselves also. That no
Okay.
one choose. I can decide by myself. I can decide if the Israeli is my enemy or my peace partner. Because also, if you are following the number of businessmen, the number of Palestinian and Israelis who are working together, who are loving together, I think you will find a lot of people. Not just Hamas will stop, not just Israel will stop the election. Israel, Abu Mazen, Fatah, Hamas, all of these leaders, they don't need any elections. Of course, if there is any election, they will kick them out. So Hamas, Israel, of course, we need to neglect all of them and just focus on our idea and invite them to vote with us. I think it's a wrong attitude if we just focus on the reaction or the action of the Israeli and Hamas and Fatah. No, we just need to focus on ourselves, and the people also want to do something by votes, by the governments, by the elections, by these kind of meetings. And you can break also the silence by this.
Rami,
If
what
you
I hear from you, based on what you said, is this is not a perfect solution, but the Palestinians will vote because they are hungry for some solution or are hungry to vote.
to see to see some new leaders, some
Okay.
new movements.
So my question to you is, what in your mind is deficient? What makes this proposed system, not perfect? What's missing in this proposed system?
First of all, the first thing, the Gazan himself or herself. How
I'm
can I
sorry?
will invite him for an election and I can't give him a food or a bread or a water or sustainable internet or open borders? And then I will ask him to vote. So I think, first of all, we need to build the Palestinian human and then add more values like democracy, like elections, like community, like civil society. But the problem that since Oslo, we don't have any sustainable time to do anything. We don't have sustainable time to build our Palestinian Authority. We don't have sustainable time to take care of the agreements between the
But
Israelis
Rami,
with the Israelis.
I'm asking you what's wrong with this system. I'm not asking you what's wrong with the current situation. We know what's
There is
wrong
there
with
is
the
no,
current.
there is no mistake with the system. System is system, but the priority for the Gazan elections or return home or end the war or feed his kids or teach, find schools now, find places, find homes. So I think like the reconciliation between Fatah and Hamas, it's a joke for the Palestinians, maybe for the media and for you and others. It's like a good level between Fatah and Hamas to make unity between them. But the people in Gaza, they don't trust in them. They know that it's not true. They know that they need election to replace Hamas and Fatah. But also we have Israel.
Okay. let's go to the next step, and that is I am asking the audience to decide, because this is a simulation, whether you are Palestinian or Israeli parliament member in the parliament. So this is a map. You'll decide what area you represent. I ask you to remain intellectually honest, remain Israeli, remain Palestinian throughout the voting process, and also decide what area of Israel, Palestine you represent. So please make your decision at this time, whether you're Israeli or Palestinian parliament member in the simulation. You have to make one decision.
Your black screen is back covering the map.
Is this better now?
Yeah, click on the map, Joseph. Okay. Yeah, no, it's doing it again. That's weird. In the center of your screen, can you right click? Yeah, they're right there where your mouse is. There's a big black box. I don't know why this is happening.
Okay. We'll go on. We have 12 Palestinian parliament members, and we have 14 Israeli parliament members. 46% of the participants are Palestinian parliament members, 40%, 54% are Israelis. Please remain so. And we have Jeff Warner as the president of Palestine, correct, Jeff? Are you here? Jeff,
Yes, I am here.
you're the president of Palestine?
I am.
And we have Amnon Harash as the prime minister of Israel.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to, because we had some arguments before, just want the audience to know, this is a simulation. The people are being asked, including me, to act as if I am the president. The people, Amnon is asked to act as the prime minister of Israel, and Jeff is asked to act as the president of Palestine. Their comments does not necessarily reflect their personal opinions. So let's not start getting into arguments with any of us on these issues, because we are basically demonstrating how this federal government will function by acting the role, not by necessarily representing our own political views. All right. So keep in mind for the parliament members that the area that you decide may be strictly or exclusively Palestinian or exclusively Israeli, but many of the districts may be mixed district, Palestinians and Israelis living together. And you may be asked, what is your area? What percentage of your population or your constituents are Israeli or Palestinians? Our first order of business, now that we conducted the election, we have a president and we have 300 parliament members, is to ratify the Constitution. Libby, would you be so kind as to read out the Constitution? Do you see the Constitution?
Yeah,
You're
we see
muted.
it. Yeah, go. She muted?
Sorry. I was muted. You'd think I'd learn by now after all these years. We believe that Palestinians and Israelis are entitled to equal rights under the law and guaranteed human rights and freedom. The Israeli-Palestinian Confederation does not intend to supersede or supplant the Palestinian or Israeli governments, nor to abrogate or undermine any agreements between those governments. We recognize the need to work with the Israeli and Palestinian governments. Our purpose is to resolve conflicts and to expand the relationship between Palestinians and Israelis in a fair and equitable manner. We believe in equal rights under the law, guaranteed human rights, and freedom for all. We voluntarily give the legislatures and the governments of Israel and Palestine veto power over legislation we pass relating to the domain of control of those governments. We believe in the separation of power between the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. We believe in the creation of a permanent secular government for all the people residing in Israel and Palestine. We believe in having a separate judicial branch relating to IPC legislation with Israeli and Palestinian judges, with a system to avoid biased decisions based on nationality.
So the federal government constitution recognizes and that the Israeli and the Palestinian governments can agree to any solution, including a two-state or one state. And constitutionally, we are required to accept any agreement between the Israeli and the Palestinian governments. We are also required to give the Israeli and the Palestinian governments a veto power over legislation which violates their sovereignty. Before I go to Rami, do you, parliament members or audience, have any questions or comments regarding the Constitution? You can put them in the chat. Nasir, do we have any questions or from the audience regarding the Constitution?
No, there's no questions.
Okay, so let's go to Rami. Rami, what are comments or questions do you have regarding this Constitution?
No, I have no comment, but as a Gazan, it's so hopeless, but as an activist, yeah, it's a professional constitution. But as a Gazan, can't enter Gaza, can't enter West Bank. It's very difficult to make it real, but at least we are working right by writing, I think, a good paper.
Well, the purpose of the paper is not just to have a good paper, is to allow
Already
improve
we-
the lives of the people of Israel and Palestine, not just
we
to have
already
a-
improved that. We already improved that. Daily we have calls between Israelis and Palestinians. Today I'm in Germany. I just arrived to Germany 1 hour before 7 and 6. I arrived Berlin. But because I believe in the importance of these kind of Zoom meetings, I joined the meeting. I'm here
Okay,
in Berlin
but-
for a conference also for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. And since years we are asking about each other, sharing the same thoughts towards end this war. And here we are in Germany to do something for this war.
I believe
Can
Germany
lead us.
also has a federal government, and also the United States has a federal government.
Yeah. So this kind of understanding between Israelis and Palestinians can lead us together to one constitution like this. For you and for Nasser and for others, it's daily lives. Talk with Israelis, with Arabs, with Palestinians. So it's not just a paper. You are believe in this paper, and it's paper with value, with many values.
Okay,
But maybe for the new people, the enemies, because we need to invite enemies and create them to be friends. We will not invite people love each other. We will not find many people like this. Of course, we will find a lot of people hate each other, blame each other, want something new. By this,
all right. I'm going to be asking the parliament members to ratify the Constitution. First, I'm going to ask the Palestinian parliament members to ratify the Constitution. Be cognizant of the fact that you ran for parliament for about a year. You agreed with the Constitution, and you, at this time, since you have been elected, you must ratify the Constitution. So Palestinian parliament members, please vote.
And just a reminder, when you vote, the voting comes up whether you'll have the opportunity to vote for both Israeli and Palestinian. So only vote when it's your time to vote. So if you're an Israeli member, do not vote now. And when the Israeli vote comes and you're Palestinian, do not vote.
All right, publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members ratified the Constitution. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Israeli parliament members, please vote. Publish the vote. 100% of the Israeli parliament members ratify the Constitution. This means that your entire term as parliament members, you must conduct yourself in accordance with the Constitution. You must pass laws in accordance with the Constitution. You must reject laws that violates the Constitution. The Constitution is our guideline, is the agreement that we have for the entire parliament. So from now on, you have to proceed as a parliament member, Palestinian and Israeli together, and you must conduct yourself in accordance with the Constitution. And you must also remove all your allegiances to either the Israeli or the Palestinian government. You are no longer able to be a member of the Palestinian or the Israeli government. You are only allowed to be a member of this parliament, the common federal government. All right, let's go to the next order of business. Before that, I just want to say that we have created a momentous occasion in the history of humanity. The fact that we were able to conduct an election and the fact that we were able to pass a constitution and ratify the Constitution undermines the existing government's use of fear and hate and when I say governments, I mean the Palestinian and the Israeli governments' use of fear and hate to justify their actions. It removes the collective stigma, the worldwide stigma that people have against Israelis and Palestinians, that we are not able to have peace and work together. It provides huge political capital to the parliament members and to the president, to you and to me as president and to you as parliament member. It compels the governments and other organizations, governments all over the world, to contribute because of the momentous occasion that we have created. It gives the Israelis and the Palestinians new self-image, and it provides the Israelis and Palestinians are not a monolithic society. In other words, not all Palestinians think the same, not all Israelis think the same. And the proof is that some voted in the elections and some did not. And many Israelis and Palestinians voted in the exact same way. So we are not a monolithic society. All right, let's go to our first order of business, and that's granting a veto power to the separate governments. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
All right. The Confederation is the government of the entire population of Israel and Palestine from the river to the sea. We recognize the Palestinian and Israeli governments and are seeking their cooperation to implement our vision for peace by giving them a veto. We will do our utmost to satisfy the essential needs of each government. We are pleading with the Palestinian and Israeli public to understand that while we would like to pass the best legislation possible to improve their lives, under these constraints, a perfect legislation is not possible. We hereby bestow a veto power relating to legislation affecting sovereignty to the following: the government of Israel on issues in which it is indispensable, the Palestinian government on issues in which it is indispensable. In the event of changes in the entirety of the Israeli or Palestinian governments, this legislation may be amended or repealed, subject to the IPC Constitution. The Parliament will decide on indispensability, Vetoes may be bestowed individually or collectively.
So this is legislation. We are giving veto power to the Israeli and the Palestinian governments only if they are indispensable. If they are dispensable, do not get a veto power. So if we pass legislation regarding how to use the land, how to create a police force, or remove the wall, then the Israeli and the Palestinian governments are indispensable. We must give them a veto power. However, if we pass legislation regarding the budget or ratifying the Constitution or appointing IPC ministers, then they are dispensable and they do not get a veto power. Don, I'll give you an opportunity to ask the question. Let me just explain why is it necessary to give a veto power? Because veto power provides a safety net to both sides. It increases the likelihood of Israelis and Palestinians' participation because both sides, let's face it, the Israelis feel security with their government, the Palestinians feel security with their government. So the veto power gives them a safety net. It decreases the Israeli and Palestinian government's opposition to the federal government, and it removes any claims that the IPC has subversive intentions. In other words, to undermine the Israeli or the Palestinian government. When they have a veto power, then they do not, it shows that our intention is not to be subversive. It gives legal protection to the candidates, and it compels the IPC to thread the needle, to pass legislation that is acceptable and least objectionable to the Israeli and the Palestinian government, and it creates a platform for negotiations with the deadline. Don, what is your question? Don Raphael.
Yes, thank you. I'm Don Raphael. I'm in San Francisco in real life, but I'm going to ask the question as an Israeli parliament member. I voted for the Constitution, but you've given the answers why you think the veto is necessary. Maybe the question is for our guest, Rami, who I really appreciate as a peace activist. I want to thank you for being here. But given the extremism of the Israeli government and given the lack of real representation for the Palestinian government, we're going to consider the PA to be that, I guess, in this, how can a veto power be effective in affecting any change for an IPC government?
Well, the IPC will have to pass legislation that neither side will be able to veto, regardless of the extreme circumstances that we are going through right now. And we are actually trying to show that in the simulation.
Yeah, it's just hard to visualize given some of the common sense and legislation and seeing an extreme Israeli government, and then again, a lack of representation for the Palestinian people, how we can get from A to B. But I'd be curious to hear our guests' comments on that.
Rami, Don is asking you, since the extreme situation that we have right now, and the Palestinians do not really have a government that was elected by the people of Israel, of Palestine, does it make sense to give them a veto power, or would the federal government be able to make peace with such weak Palestinian government that has not been elected?
I think, in my opinion, if we will talk about peace, for sure there will be no veto for here, this side, or for that side. If anyone want to talk about peace, I think he will not do anything, because peace, I think it's something good. But for the Palestinians, it's so complicated. I think if we give, in my opinion, if maybe it's an equality to give them veto here and there, but for me, no, it's not a good idea to give them more power to continue their nothing. So I think we need to give them more support to work for peace, not to work against peace, not to use anything can freeze the peace or can make this crisis more worse and worse. Especially that after this war, for any Gazan, in our Gazan mentality, we believe that there is a new war after this war between the Gazans themselves, between the people themselves. So this war will continue for a long time, with or without the Israeli army. Because of that, I'm trying to know. Let's give the Palestinians opportunities to build their homes, to build their life, to build their country. Not to be like a country just use veto. No, no. Palestinians are peaceful people, calling for peace sincere. And we need also to support Israelis, to work with the Palestinians, to let them know that we have Palestinians and Israelis working for peace, not against peace. My opinion, please no veto for peace.
All right, so
Can I-
you say don't give them a veto
Yeah.
on peace.
Can-
And,
For
and
peace,
Yeah.
because it's a shame for any human
okay, well,
that if there is a peace that someone say no veto. How come?
Joseph, can I ask the question a different way?
yeah, go ahead.
So Rami, let me ask you this. The veto power it's sort of a double-edged sword. It like Joseph said, it does provide safety for each government to feel that it's not going to be overpowered. But wouldn't you say at the same time that even if there is a veto power, that if one of the governments continues to block efforts that lead to progress, that it will in a sense motivate the people to vote for another person in power to replace that government, and therefore send a message to those governments that the will of the people is to go about this what the IPC proposes. So in a sense, it makes the change come from them organically rather than being enforced from the outside.
Correct. I agree.
Maybe.
That goes to the momentous occasion that I spoke about earlier. We are the people of Israel and Palestine. We got the power now. We have the political power. We have more power, more political power than the Israeli and the Palestinian governments, because we have created a federal government elected by the people of Israel and Palestine with huge numbers. And that's where our power is. Even though we don't have the military power, we have the political power, and political power is much greater than military power. All right, let's go to the Palestinian parliament members. Please vote on this veto power. Palestinian parliament members in the simulation, please vote. Okay, 5 more seconds to vote. End the polling. 100% of the Palestinians who voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote.
Yes.
Hey, Joseph, click on your screen. Move it up and down a little bit. Like scroll up and down. Not right click, not right click. The heck is that black box?
Okay. Is this the Israeli parliament members voting? I believe stop sharing. I mean, show the 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. So let's go to the next legislation, which is, well, this is not really a legislation. It's a declaration of peace that we are making as a federal government independent of the Israeli and Palestinian government. This declaration is a declaration. It therefore is the Israeli and the Palestinian governments are dispensable. We are not required to give them a veto power, although we will ask for their cooperation. Libby, would you be so kind as to read this legislation?
This is a declaration of peace. Our goal is to be a shining example for peace and tolerance. We believe in the respect for all people, regardless of religion or gender. We are committed to protect all people of all religions and to value the sanctity of life. All people are equal. All religions are equal. The practice of religion is voluntary and shall not be imposed. The land belongs to no religion, and no war shall be imposed on the account of religion. We encourage all governments of the world to adopt this resolution. We hereby submit this declaration to the Israeli government, the Palestinian government, and ask that they will adopt the same.
So they are dispensable. We're asking them to adopt the same. Does anyone have any questions regarding this declaration of peace? Or does anyone in the parliament have any questions regarding? All right.
There's no-
Yeah, are there any questions, Nasir?
There's no questions in the chat. The only question I would ask is, do you think that the line that says the land belongs to no religion is going to fly for both the religious communities, the Muslim, Christians, and the Jewish?
The land belongs to no religion, and no war shall be imposed on the count of religion. That's you pointed the right area that there may be an objection, but we created an amended declaration where that line was removed, and it says the practice of religion is, we respect the connections of all religions to the land, and no war shall be imposed on the count of religion. So it addresses exactly the point that you are making. So let's vote on the declaration of peace first, and then if it doesn't pass, we'll go to the next one. I think the declaration of peace is stronger than the amended one, but let's see. Let's have the Palestinian parliament members please vote. Okay, publish the votes. 90% of the Palestinian parliament members voted in favor of this legislation. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Please vote on this. Okay, 100% of the Israeli parliament members voted on this. So this declaration has passed. We don't need to go to the amended one. Let's go to Rami, and then we'll go to the Israeli prime minister and the Palestinian president and ask them to declare the same thing. Rami, do you have any comments regarding this declaration of peace? Rami.
Yeah, I'm muted. No, I have no comment. But I
Okay.
love this kind of brainstorming
Okay.
between Palestinians and Israelis in general.
Okay, what do you think about the line that Nasir said that the land belongs to no religion and no war shall be imposed on the count of religion? Do you think that would be objectionable to the Palestinian or to the Israeli people?
I think it's here we are. It's different between the Palestinians and Israelis. The Palestinians in Gaza different than the Palestinians in West Bank. The population after 7th of October for many Gazans not thinking in a religious way, but they are not sharing that. Here I'm talking about the Gazans in the streets. The Christians, the Muslims, they are away from believe anything. So, and also non-religious. But,
I see. Okay.
Stimulation, stay stimulation, but the real needs for the people also it's different.
All right, let's go to the president of Palestine. Mr. President, are you going to adopt this declaration of peace? You don't have a veto power, but
The-
ask
we,
you to.
the Palestinians adopt this declaration of peace.
Let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to adopt this declaration of peace?
Yes, and one comment with regards to a democracy. In any true democracy, there should be a total freedom and tolerance of religion. People can practice whatever religion they want without any inhibitions or any problems from the government. So that line must be adhered to by both Palestinians and Israeli governments as well as parliament.
All right, thank you. Thank you. So we are just showing you how we are threading the needle. We are creating a political system that both sides will have to accept. And that's we are demonstrating how this is being done, how a federal government threads the needle. All right, let's go to the next legislation, and that is Common Police Force. Libby, would you be so kind as to read the Common Police Force legislation?
All right. Equal number of Israeli and Palestinians at each level. Distinct uniforms for the common police force different from the Israeli or Palestinian police force. Independent of the Israeli and Palestinian security forces. In cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian authorities. Address sensitive religious, cultural, and language requirements, giving each side exclusive management of the holy site, but giving the common police force the right to enforce entry and exit routes to the holy sites. Facilitate the operation of the joint economic zones. Investigate corruption by administrators who refuse to teach tolerance. Investigate allegations of intolerance and racist hate crime against Israelis or Palestinians. Assist in managing checkpoints. Guard the Parliament building and threats against members of the Confederation. Facilitate access to and safety of religious facilities. We hereby submit this legislation to the Israeli government and the Palestinian. We bestow upon them a veto power which may be exercised in the next 60 days.
So we are basically proposing a common police force that will work in cooperation with the Palestinian and the Israeli authorities, working in areas, both physical, geographical area, and also areas that involve issues that are of a general nature. Does anyone have any questions before we take a vote on this common police force and before we go to Rami and the President of Israel, the Prime Minister of Israel and the President of Palestine? Rami, do you have any comments regarding this common police force legislation?
What is, there's a question, Sada, you said a plaid. What's a plaid? I don't understand.
Apply, maybe?
Plaid, P-L-A-I-D. She
Oh,
said.
a plaid
what is it?
design.
Oh,
That's
okay. I'm
not
sorry.
you.
I missed that. Okay. I'm not a fashion person. Okay. So
Una, what's your question?
There's a quick one. You mentioned the word checkpoints. Will they still exist, those checkpoints?
Yes.
Surely.
When
Yes.
we pass this legislation right now, the checkpoints exist. Yes.
Oh, I see. Now, not after. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Let's have a vote, and then we'll go to Rami and the separate governments. Rami, do you? Let's vote. Palestinian Parliament members, please vote. Palestinian parliaments, do you support a police force, common police force? Publish the vote. 100% of the Palestinian parliament members who voted yes. Let's go to the Israeli parliament members. Remember, we need 55% on each side. We are getting much, much greater numbers than 55%. Okay, let's publish the vote on the Israeli parliament members. Again, 100% of the Israeli parliament members agreed with this legislation. Let's go to Rami, and then we'll go to the separate governments. Rami, do you have any comments regarding this legislation?
No, I have no comment.
All right. Let's go to the President of Palestine. Mr. President, do you veto this legislation?
The government of Palestine agrees to this legislation, but it has a worry, and it wishes that this legislation specified and clarified the relationship between the IPC police that we're voting on here and the existing Israeli police and the existing Israeli army. What happens when there's conflict, when the two sides come together?
Oh, it says in cooperation with the separate Israeli and Palestinian Authority. That means we will work on the details together, and we will, of course, require your authorization or participation whenever there is, whenever you are becoming indispensable. Let's go to the.
You understand, of course, why the Palestinian government is worried, because the existing Palestinian police seem to have no power when it comes to dealing with the Israeli police or army.
Yeah, we understand that, but we are not a representative of the Palestinian government. We are a federal government. You should facilitate greater power to your government. That's not our responsibility. We are a separate government from your government. Let's go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Mr. Prime Minister, are you going to veto this legislation? Mr. Prime Minister of Israel, are you going to veto this legislation?
Amnon needs to unmute.
Yes, thank you. Before responding, I need some clarification regarding the line that talks about the corruption of administrators who refuse to teach tolerance, given the fact that generations of Palestinians have been indoctrinated and taught hatred toward Jews and so on. It seems to me that we need a few more generations of different kind of teaching and indoctrination, tolerance and acceptance of Jews and so on. So how are we going to enforce this kind of corruption, as you call it, in this legislation? How is the common police going to enforce? And what happens if those corrupt administrators refuse to teach tolerance? What are we going to do?
We are speaking about corruption on the Palestinian side and the Israeli side by administrators who refuse to teach tolerance. They will then fall under the criminal investigation under criminal laws that we will pass with your veto power, giving you a veto power regarding those criminal statutes that we will pass. And once we pass those, we will enforce those criminal statutes, whether they are against Palestinians or Israelis who refuse to teach tolerance in accordance with the legislation that we will pass and have been suggested, requiring both sides to teach tolerance and understanding. Are you gonna veto this legislation?
I will not veto that.
All right. Let's go to, I think we went to Rami already, so.
Yeah. Question is Joseph, is the enforcement on this on members of those who are appointed to teach tolerance? That's what I don't understand. Like, is it going to apply to all Israeli and Palestinian citizens, or just those who are working, for example, for like an agency that was set up by the IPC to teach toleration?
It depends on the legislation we pass.
Okay.
If we pass legislation then it would say who is required to comply with the legislation. All right, let's go to the next legislation, and it's rebuilding Gaza and southern Israel. And Nasir, I would appreciate if you can conduct the discussion regarding this legislation. I need
Sure.
to take a short break.
Sure, sure. Libby, would you like to read it, please?
All right. This is about rebuilding Gaza and southern Israel. The IPC is the only legitimate government in Israel and Palestine, consisting of 300 parliament members elected by the entire population. Approximately 125 members represent the destroyed areas. The IPC is committed to the well-being of all people, including the 5 million individuals directly affected by the violence since October 7th. The IPC believes that the future of the Gaza and Israeli people is interconnected. It is unlikely that the Israeli and Palestinian governments will be able to restore a normal, peaceful existence in the foreseeable future. The IPC is requesting a $50 billion grant from the international community, which includes Israel and Palestine, to fund and coordinate the rebuilding of the devastated areas. The IPC will prioritize the following. 1, the IPC is calling for an immediate ceasefire and the immediate return of all political prisoners in Israel and Palestine to their homes. And 2, rebuilding thousands of homes, roads, hospitals, civic buildings, and infrastructure to facilitate the immediate return of all people to their homes. And 3, restoring law and order and civil society that have been destroyed. The government of Israel and Palestine are given a veto power.
Okay, thank you, Libby. If there isn't any questions, we can move forward on the vote. Is there anybody have any questions regarding this legislation? So if not, let us please the Palestinian members, Dan, can you put up the vote for Palestinian members to vote on this legislation? A few more seconds and he will post the results. Go ahead, Dan, can you post the results? All right, 100% of the Palestinian members approve. Can we have the Israeli members of the parliament please vote? Israeli members only. And can we post the result? 100%. So we have 100% from the Palestinians and 100% from the Israelis. We will now go to the Prime Minister of Israel. Will you accept or veto this legislation?
I will not veto this legislation on one condition, that Israel is not going to fund the reconstruction of Gaza. Given if we receive, or not we, but it will be received a $50 billion grant from other international communities, then I will not veto it. But I don't think that Israel should be financially responsible.
Okay. The
Mr.
legislation,
Prime Minister,
it says
Mr.
50
Prime
million.
Minister, what were you thinking on how to rebuild Gaza if there was no funding from the international community? What were you thinking? What was your plans regarding Gaza otherwise?
We can, we meaning that the Israeli government assist with the know-how, expertise, workforce, and so on that will be funded by international funding. But financially, I don't think it's a responsibility of Israel to fund this kind of thing, especially due to the fact that Israel was not the cause of this whole conflict. So
are you saying that if there is no IPC, you would just leave Gaza to deal with its own destiny without your government's participation to help?
No, our government will participate, as I said, with our tremendous knowledge, expertise, and this kind of thing. But financially, number one, as we all know, this war just drained Israel's economy completely. So we will not be able to fund this, but we'll definitely assist in any area that we can in terms of knowledge, expertise, work power, and so on. So I just wanted a clarification. I will not veto this if on the condition that we're not required to financially support it and actually pay.
Okay, so no veto from the Israeli side. Will the Palestinian president, will you veto or will you accept this legislation?
No, the Palestinian government accepts this with thanks, because we certainly need help, both engineering and financial, and organization in rebuilding. And we think that's a crucial thing because our people now are without homes.
Okay, thank you. So legislation has passed and has not been vetoed. Rami, would you like to comment on this legislation?
I think no, I have no comment.
So,
But yes,
I'm going to ask you because I actually asked for this legislation because it specifically relates to Gaza, where you're from. So,
yeah,
in terms of how it would help and how it would be implemented to Israel, is there anything that, for example, in the efforts of rebuilding Gaza, that you can add maybe to this feature? Like one thing that I added, which was removed, was temporary housing and living for Palestinians in the West Bank while Gaza is being rebuilt.
you know, it's depend on the attitude of the Israeli Prime Minister. Since years, the Israeli Prime Minister just funding and helping Hamas and other Palestinian factions. But he is look at the Palestinian Authority that they are enemies. So if he will cut the fund now, so nothing new. It's something default for the Palestinians. But also we are looking for a new desire, a new Israeli desire can also prove that there is an Israeli partner for peace.
As the president of the whole area, given the lack of financial participation by Israel, I am going to suspend this legislation because it simply does not make sense that Israel will receive funding for the rebuilding of southern Israel and refuse to participate in funding the destruction that it caused in Gaza. So I will probably suggest that this legislation will be placed on hold, and further, that any proportion of funding that goes to Israel will be reduced because it is not willing to financially support the devastation in Israel. So we'll have to work on that legislation, but unless the Prime Minister of Israel removes his condition that he will not be required to financially support, I am calling for for putting this legislation on hold at this time.
Joseph, one clarification here. It seems to me, according to the title of this legislation, Rebuilding Gaza and Southern Israel. Also, we forget the areas of the northern part of Israel that's completely devastated. And if the $50 billion that come from international resources is going to be allocated on a proportional basis to both Israel and Gaza, I'm all in favor of rehabilitating Gaza. It's been devastating. We all know that. But I don't think that Israel should pay for Gaza while the southern part of Israel around Gaza Strip and the northern part have been devastated. It will require many tens of billions of dollars to to rehabilitate the people, the businesses, the homes, and so on. So let's be fair. Let's be fair. If we get $50 billion internationally, it should be allocated proportionally on an as-needed basis between Israel and Gaza. But it's not fair to require Israel to pay for Gaza, where Gaza is not going to be paying for Israel. So that my condition stays.
Well, the president of Palestine does not, you're a different government. The president of Palestine is a different government. Your government is a different government. When we speak about an international cooperation, financial cooperation, we are also speaking about the government of Palestine and your government participating. So you will be participating and benefiting. But I am disturbed by the fact that you said we are not going to put a penny. We are only going to put an expertise. That's not enough. I am looking for a financial commitment from you as well.
Well, let's ask the president of Palestine if they are going to put any money. I don't think they're going to put any money at all.
That's a reasonable question.
Yeah.
That's not fair to ask Israel to put money to rehabilitate Gaza, where the Palestinian president is not going to put any money. They don't have any money.
Well,
yes,
Mr. President, are you going to contribute?
Well, the
money.
Prime Minister of Israel is correct. The Palestinian government has no money because
There you go.
the government of Israel has systematically, for the past 70 years, undermined the economy of Palestine. And in fact, even our monthly taxes, customs that is collected by Israel and is supposed to, by law, by treaty, be transferred to us, they willy-nilly hold them back and have Israel has worked to impoverish. So we don't have.
I understand the
Joseph,
issue, but I am looking for concession from both of you.
Okay, Joseph, let me ask Rami, our guest Rami. Rami, there's been a statement said by the Israeli Prime Minister that the Palestinian Authority has no money and is not funding anything in Gaza. To my knowledge, the salaries of teachers, the university and healthcare and things like electricity is still being funded by the Palestinian Authority. Can you confirm that the Palestinian Authority is not spending any money on Gaza?
There is no Palestinian sources also. So the problem that already the Palestinian economic situation controlling by the Israelis already in all sectors. So I think how come the Israelis want to from the Palestinians to pay money and everything targeted and broken by the Israelis? Okay, yeah. They want us to give the money, give us much time to work and to build our country. And of course, we will find money. But Israel don't give us any chance to make anything positive for our economic, for our life. And it's like all the periods of time, just slogans, just speeches, just Palestinians, 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 Palestinians. What about Israelis?
Okay.
All right. Wait. As the president of the area, Israel, Palestine, the only person who was elected legitimately.
Please, Joseph.
Wait.
My home, my office. All of our area targeted by the Israeli army. I will not ask Israel to give me any 1 shekel. But the history, and everyone knows that everything happened and burned in Gaza by the Israeli soldier. Just to check Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and to check how many Israeli soldiers are playing with our home, with our clothes, with our privacy, with all of that. You need from me to pay money. Okay, I will pay money for my people, but leave me alone. Give me my freedom.
Yeah. So wait.
It's easy for you to speak. My office organized hundreds of meetings between Israelis and Palestinians and burned by the Israeli soldiers. And I will not ask anyone. but stop looking at us like we are animals, like we are murdered, like we need just to make any improvements that we are good people.
As the only government that was elected by the people in Gaza and southern Israel, and we have parliament members in Gaza and southern Israel. The Israeli government has not been elected by the people in Gaza. The Palestinian government has not been elected by the people in Gaza. We are the only government that has been elected by the people in Gaza. And therefore, we would like to capitalize on that. And since the Israeli and the Palestinian governments are not willing to contribute funding, we are asking that they will recognize our exclusive or jurisdiction in Israel, in Gaza, in order to rebuild Gaza. Will the Israeli and the Prime Minister of Palestine agree to that?
Can you please clarify that again, Mr. President?
We are asking you, the President of Palestine, to recognize the IPC as the exclusive government in the area of Gaza, and the Israeli Prime Minister to recognize us as the exclusive government in the area of Gaza, because we are the only one elected in Gaza.
Well, if you ask us to agree to that, Joseph, that means that eliminates the veto power that both us and the Palestinian governments have. So
with regard to Gaza, yes.
Yeah.
With regard to Gaza, we are asking you to consent to the elimination of a veto power. You are not elected in Gaza. You are not willing to spend any money in Gaza. You only have your military, and we are saying, well, at least recognize us as the exclusive government in Gaza.
Yeah.
What would be the powers of that exclusive government? Will they have the authority to say, Israel, you're supposed to pay for our rehabilitation, or what? Because the comments that Rami made are replete with falsity and inaccuracies. With all due respect,
But we're not speaking about what the comments that Rami made. I am the president of Palestine.
I understand. But look, Israel has been providing all these years, providing to Gaza electricity, water.
Look,
and 20.
This is not the time to speak about your complaints about Gaza. We are now speaking about the reality. Gaza has been destroyed. Gaza has been destroyed. Your government, your military is inside Gaza in an area that is occupied by your military and has not been elected by the 2 million people that are in Gaza. We are the only legitimate government in Gaza. We're asking you to recognize us as the exclusive government, and we will have to conduct ourselves within the Constitution.
And before I answer that, Joseph, you're absolutely right. Our military is in Gaza right now. My question is, why? Why are we?
It's not relevant. Why?
It's
not relevant. Why?
It is relevant.
It's not relevant. We are asking to be the exclusive government in Gaza. Okay, let's assume that you are 100% correct on the reasoning. That has nothing to do with reality right now. The reality is that there are 2 million people that are suffering. Gaza has been destroyed. You're not willing to spend any money on rebuilding it. We are the only government elected there. So give us exclusivity and tell us that you recognize our government as the government of Gaza.
Will you give? I will do that. Will you give us, the Israelis, exclusivity of our territories? Because we have millions of people who have been displaced and suffered, and in the northern part of Israel and in the southern part of Israel. So will you give us the same type of exclusivity as you're asking me? If that's the case, then I will.
Yeah, our military does not occupy Israel. We do not have tanks in Israel. We are not a military power. We recognize your government, and we recognize, and our government is created by the people of Israel and Palestine. All we are asking is give us exclusivity regarding pull out of Gaza and give us exclusivity to manage Gaza. Why do we need to deal with you, with all due respect, a government that has not been elected, a government that is based on military power, that is rejected by the people who live there? What's wrong with giving us the authority to deal with our people? We are elected by the people.
Nothing wrong, and I'd be happy to do it, but you keep on saying your tanks are in Gaza. The question is, we did not cause that. We're there to defend ourselves against the actions of the people from Gaza. Look
Yes,
even
if it's true.
Excuse me.
All right.
Excuse
All right.
me.
I think we exhausted the conversation. I just wanted to show the flexibility that the federal government will have regarding each and every issue. All right.
No, actually, as president of Palestine, I haven't had my say on this issue yet.
Yes.
And first of all, I completely disagree with the Prime Minister of Israel that they are the reason that the Israeli government is there because of 15 or 70 years of persecution of the Palestinian people. It was the underlying cause of what happened on October 7th, which is what the tanks are responding to, first of all. Second of all, the Palestinian government will not give up its sovereignty over Gaza. So we would not recognize the IPC as being the sole sovereign in Gaza. The Palestinian government will work very closely with the IPC and give much deference to it because we do recognize that it is elected, but we retain our sovereignty over that area.
Mr. President of Palestine, your beef with the Israeli government is your beef with the Israeli government. You have not been able to protect the people of Gaza. You are not elected by the people of Gaza. You have no legal jurisdiction over Gaza, and you do not have a legitimate government in Gaza. So, since you have failed to give peace and prosperity to the Palestinian people in Gaza, we are asking you to remove your theoretical claim over Gaza and give us openly open our exclusive jurisdiction over Gaza, because neither you nor the Israeli government have been able to give anything to the people in Gaza other than violence and destruction. All right, I think we exhausted this. Let's go to our
Joseph,
next. Yes.
I would like us to change this from southern Israel to just Israel. So that would include the area of northern Israel as well. Can we do that?
Who is asking that?
Walter Sharp.
Okay. Well, that's something that we could consider if the Israeli government and the Palestinian government would give us a exclusive, recognize our exclusivity with regard to Gaza.
The problem with that, Mr. Sharp, is that if you're going to go there, then from the Palestinian side, it could say, well, why don't you include the West Bank? Because the West Bank has been under attack. And because the problems in the north is then you're going to open up this issue with Lebanon, southern Lebanon, the bombing that's been going on in Lebanon. So I think that this addressly focuses the one area. It doesn't say that legislation could be done later for areas of the West Bank or other parts of Israel.
Correct. I agree.
I think we should be focused.
Okay.
I'm just
And by the way,
wondering-
this issue of exclusivity just rose up. I mean, because of the Israeli Prime Minister's stand. All right, let's go to the post-simulation survey. After participating in the simulation, I'm asking all of you to vote. Do you support a federal government for the people of Israel and Palestine? Five more seconds to vote. Okay, publish the vote. I do not see a no vote, but that doesn't mean that the people who voted no voted yes, because we have less number of people voting anyways. It could be that they decided not to vote. We'll discuss that in the open discussion. I'd be interested to know who voted no at the beginning and changed his mind, or any discussion about the federal government as an option. All right. So these are the closing remarks. A common democratic confederation government can bring